spending, which I want to get into the details of. But Jonathan, first, I have a trick question for you. It's actually not a trick
Uh-oh.
question. It's a tough
Uh-oh.
question, though. Do you consider it accurate to say that the filibuster is a relic of the Jim Crow era?
No, because it was formed so far before the Jim Crow era.
Correct.
So I don't view it as a relic. Obviously it was used to impede civil rights legislation, including
Correct.
famously. But no, I don't view it that way.
And it was last renewed and reformed in the
In the 70s.
70s,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
therefore that's after the Jim Crow. So when reporters, as happened yesterday, use President Obama's patently false statement to set up a question about killing the filibuster because it's a Jim Crow relic, are they acting responsibly? Because anyone who saw Caitlin Collins ask that would believe, oh, it's a relic of the Jim Crow era. And President Biden said yes, and it hasn't been fact checked anywhere. It's just not true.
Oh, I disagree. I thought Caitlin actually. I'm not just circling the wagons. I actually thought her questions were some of the best at the press conference because she got Biden to say that, and then very quickly in follow up said, "Okay, so what are you going to do about it?" And it just showed. I think what I learned that press conference was basically worthless yesterday,
Yes.
completely worthless. But what I learned from it, Hugh, it was actually it was the tone of Biden, what he said. I came away from that press conference based on what he said about voting rights to filibuster, more convinced than I was before it that he's going to actually lean in and apply real pressure on Joe Manchin and others later in the year. I could just, again, I don't have the reporting to back that up, but just watching him and listening to him. And so I thought it was perfectly fine of her to say, Obama has said this. Do you agree with this as a proposition?
We could not disagree more. That was performance
okay.
art. And by the way, she didn't listen to the answer. Let's play you cut number 11 is Caitlin.
For you, but first, I'd like to follow up on a question from Yamiche, and that's on the filibuster.
That counts as a question, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll make it quick. It's a
No,
quick
no, you
question.
can.
Regarding the filibuster, at John Lewis's funeral, President Barack Obama said he believed the filibuster was a relic of the Jim Crow era. Do you agree?
Yes.
If not, why not abolish it?
Stop. She says, if not, which is non-responsive.
Okay, all right. I'm not going to defend every piece of it. I forgot about the if not, but generally speaking, I thought it was a pretty good 1-2.
Well, it was set up for a television moment, but we have learned that press conferences are performative art. And the straight question, just a straight question is the filibuster racist? That's a straight question. And I just didn't, I think the media is so far left, Jonathan, you're not. I don't know how we save it. Now let's go to your story, which is wonderful and accurately reported and a revelation to me. Would you summarize it first for people? Biden to supersize spending.
So, right now, many people, when you saw the figure floated in the New York Times of Biden looking at his second spending package of $3 trillion, many people's eyes sort of, popped out of their heads. This is a huge number, $3 trillion over 10 years. But I spoke to sources who are on the internal call of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, the House Progressive Caucus. So these are progressive Democrats. There's a very powerful bloc in the House. And they were very, very, this is in their private conversation, they haven't floated this publicly yet, but they are adamant, many of these people, that $3 trillion is vastly lower than what they want. And some of them are discussing making a demand for as much as $1 trillion per year in new spending on climate. A lot of this is basically pushing climate change, initiatives into an infrastructure bill. So this is going to be a really big fight between the ideological factions of the Democratic Party. When Biden rolls this out next week, do not expect there to be confetti fired off from the progressives. They're actually very underwhelmed by that figure and are going to be quite aggressive privately and publicly in advocating for a much bigger spend.
Now, that's what I found interesting. They want a much bigger spend. The only way to get that under the current rules is through the second reconciliation. I have a
Correct.
technical question, which I don't know the answer to. How soon can the budget committees pass a budget pursuant to which a second reconciliation bill can pass?
So I don't know the technical answer to that, but my understanding is it can be done in the next couple of months. That it's likely to be, done in the next couple of months. But I think most people think that this is sort of a September proposition to get this through.
You see, this is unprecedented to do two reconciliations within a span of a year. Normally, what the Republicans did under Trump was the first reconciliation in 2017 was on health care. The second on taxes was in 2018. Here, the Democrats, I don't think it's illegal. I don't think it's unconstitutional.
Wait, wasn't taxes 2017 too at the end?
It may have been at the end. I thought it was early 2018. I'd have to go back and look.
Both in 17.
But the idea is they're going to jam those through on reconciliation. It's not unconstitutional. It's not illegal. They have a Congress that covers two budgets. They can do it. The question is, will Joe Manchin, in a 51-50 vote for massive tax hikes on individuals and corporations? What is the answer to that? Because they're not going to break the filibuster here. They're going to just try for 51-50.
Well, I think from my conversations anyway with people who are involved in the discussions around this package, this is going to be in some ways the rebuild West Virginia bill. So, they're not stupid. They know Joe Manchin wants to go back to West Virginia and, be the king, bring rural broadband and so I'm being a little bit hyperbolic here, but, just picture it, Joe Manchin's sort of striding into West Virginia and the roads are paved, plated in gold and there's high-speed broadband there and everything's, wonderful. So they're going to give him so much that it's going to be very hard for him to walk away from it. Now, I think there's a conversation, is he going to be comfortable with 28, hiking the corporate tax rate to 28? Probably not. He's indicated that that's probably a bit too high, so maybe the corporate rate settles around 25. But I think the incentives are going to be so high for him as it relates to his own state that I think it's going to be pretty difficult for him to walk away from it.
You see, then they have to go work on Kristen Sinema, who is trying to establish for herself the John McCain legacy in Arizona. And there's an Angus King problem. Angus King is a governor. He knows you can't get away with this. There are other few Democrats who will recoil, who understand basic economics, that the deficit does matter. At some point, it matters. It must theoretically have a limit after which the currency becomes worthless. And so the question becomes, is there any Democrat who is hoping Joe Manchin takes the bullet but will step up and take the bullet for them if the progressives push over the line? And indeed, are there any House members who are balking at they will lose their seats. They'll get wiped out if they do this.
No. That's a really important point, Hugh, what you just said at the end, because all the focus, disproportionate focus of coverage is on Sinema, Manchin, and they should be focused on because they're really important figures for all this stuff. But the House is so narrowly divided. When you look at someone like Josh Gottheimer in New York and some of the House problem solvers, the Democrats that are in the problem solvers group, the more moderate members, a lot of them are really worried about their re-elections. They're really worried about having their name attached to tax hikes. And Pelosi has shown that she's very, very good at, keeping a caucus together and ramming it through. Look, a lot of them in private of these members are nervous about that, but the test will be, are they willing to actually defy Pelosi on this signature piece of legislation? I don't know the answer to that question, but history suggests that there's not too many of them that when it really comes to the crunch on important votes, they're willing to defy Pelosi.
I can look down the Problem Solvers Conference and tell you Jim Costa of California is in trouble if he votes for this. I can tell you Connor Lamb is in trouble if he votes for this. I can tell you Alyssa Slotkin won't vote for it anyway. and Abigail Spangenberger is not going to vote for it. So that's 4. Only one more needs to say no to a crazy bill, and it doesn't get out of the House unless they steal the Meeks seat in Iowa. And I think Nancy Pelosi is really considering stealing the Meeks seat. What do you think, Jonathan Swan?
I don't think she's going to have the support for it. I just there are too many Democrats who are really nervous about this idea. So soon after condemning Trump for trying to overturn and object to do it themselves, I just don't see that happening. And so, we'll see. But I think there's so much anxiety within her caucus about this that it's not a non-starter.
So the real reporting, I don't know if you're going to do this, but someone at Axios should go and find the 28 members of the alleged problem solver caucus and put them on the record right now, because it seems to me what you
Hugh?
talk to, your reporting is on the progressive side. That's just not the House. It's like they've got an amplification.
Can I tell you something, Hugh?
Yeah.
You're a very good assignment editor, because one of my colleagues is literally doing that right now, like literally taking the tax proposals to every single member of the Problem Solvers Caucus. So we are in the process of doing that. You're exactly right, and we are literally doing it right now.
When is that going to show up? Because that's the key thing.
I don't know, because the problem is they're out of session, so you have to. It's a pain in the ass. They can avoid you more easily, so you have to go through their staffs. With all of them. Some of them are more direct than others, but one of my colleagues is literally doing that right now.
Oh, that's why I read Axios in the morning, and why I welcome you, Jonathan Swan, anytime you want. Great story. Really good reporting. We disagree about the White House press corps, which I'm afraid has just been captured by the left and by the narrative. But we think you do a good job.
No,
Thank you, Jonathan.
About Caitlin Collins. We disagree about Caitlin Collins.
Oh, I think she's a fine reporter.
I'm not making any grand pronouncements about, I think she actually was. I thought she was one of the best in that press conference. So,
well, Kristen did a good job too. I just don't believe it.
She was good.
Did you happen to hear?
Was great.
Did you hear my interview with Eric Greitens this week?
It was fabulous.
Well, no, it was just fair. It was just no setup. I just went to the questions and no setup. And I wish reporters would go back.
Well, tell me this, Hugh. Tell me this. You think, look, Cecilia Vega, ABC. Don't you think she was pretty great?
No, that's not. It's a story based on one child. You need to ask genuine questions about the massive nature of the problem, not narrative questions.
No, I totally disagree with you. She went down there. She did the report. You have to actually sometimes illustrate a point through an individual. And she said that she spoke to these people and they were coming because of Joe Biden.
It's not, but that's not representative of everybody. I mean, it's so far.
There's been a huge, I can't believe you're saying this. There's been
a
huge surge, and you're saying it has nothing to do with Biden's rhetoric or policy?
I am saying there is a huge surge. And I think it would be a fine question to say there's been a huge surge, Mr. President. The number is 9,000 in February. Are you responsible for it? I would not extrapolate from one 9-year-old to try and put the president on the spot. I just think journalism has lost its way. Jonathan, thank you. You haven't. And don't forget Relief Factor.